Our top focus in this edition, Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that there is a multipolar world order forming at the BRICS Summit. Addressing the plenary summit of the 16th summit, the plenary session of the 16th summit, the Russian leader said that he was looking forward to constructive talks at the summit. Putin said that BRICS unites like-minded countries, civilizations and cultures, and its member states stand for equality, good neighborly relations and mutual respect. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping are among the world leaders attending the summit in Kazan. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding a bilateral meeting with the Chinese President in Kazan later in the day. This will be the first meeting between the two leaders since India and China agreed on non-hostile patrolling along the line of actual control. Let's go straight across now to my colleague Siddhant Sibul, who's been tracking all those developments live on the ground in Kazan. Siddhant, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of expectations as far as that meeting between the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese President is concerned. How soon do we expect that meeting to take place?
Well, Molly, the schedule is really behind the time. The second plenary of the BRICS leaders is still underway. And once it gets over, we will see the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping holding their meeting. This is the last engagement of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi here in Kazan. Roughly, he had 3 bilaterals, Russia, Iran, and the next will be China. And of course, China bilateral is something that is catching all the eyeballs. It is being believed as the Kazan saw with India and China sitting together formally for the first time ever in last 4.5 years since the Galwan incident happened in 2020. We know that both sides, after patient diplomacy, as the Indian External Affairs Minister has described, and the instrumental role of the Indian NSA in terms of able to achieve that, the border pact came about. We know that at the LAC, the border pact, the patrolling agreement has been achieved. More details are yet to be announced by both the Indian and the Chinese side. But essentially, today's bilateral will go a long way in terms of these two large Asian neighbors having a peaceful situation at the border, because India had made it clear several times that whatever happens at the border will have a wider repercussions in the relationship, and India stuck to its word, and until normalization is achieved, India said solution cannot be come about in terms of India-China deteriorating ties, and we could see more deliverables in India-China relationship once the bilateral is over, and indications are given by both sides as to what transpired during this all-important bilateral.
Indeed. Siddhant, just talking about what has unfolded over the last few hours, a very categorical and strong statement being given by the Indian Prime Minister, talking about India's stance as far as the Ukraine war is concerned as well, and the overall messaging of India not supporting war and supporting dialogue and diplomacy. Tell us more and elaborate for our viewers what kind of message the Indian Prime Minister has sent out over the last few hours.
Well, the Indian Prime Minister addressed twice at the BRICS Summit, once at the start of the BRICS Summit and another at the expanded format. Now, essentially, message was on following points. The number one message on the various conflicts plaguing the world, he emphasized on dialogue and diplomacy, and he said that that is the only way forward. And this is the mantra of the Indian side since the war started, the Russia-Ukraine war started, that both sides need to sit together and only then a resolution can come about. The second, of course, on reforming of multilateral institutions, including the United Nations Security Council. That has been a long-standing demand of India. Remember, India is the most populated country. It's the 5th largest economy, but it is not present at the high table at the United Nations Security Council. And this is something that, of course, raises questions about the reforms at the UNSC. The third and one of the most important points is on the issue of terrorism. The Indian Prime Minister mentioning that there should not be any double standards on the issue of terrorism. And this is a strong message to Beijing. We know that India has been calling for listing of Pakistani terrorists at the UNSC sanctions regime. But there has been one blockage, that is China, which has been stopping the listing of Pak-based and Pakistani terrorists. The third, of course, on usage, or fourth, of course, in fact, is the usage of national currencies, something that has been India has been pushing for quite some time with many countries. Not only in the neighborhood, but far off, whether it's Africa, including, of course, with Russia as well. We know that in the BRICS itself, the focus is on creation of a new alternative payments mechanism, which is not dominated by the West. And this push has been primarily being given by Russia, which was removed from the SWIFT banking system. And that, of course, led to Russia focusing on its own payments mechanism and trading in national currencies. In fact, the Russian president recently said that almost 97% of the trade between China and Russia is in national currency. So several issues, be it trading in national currencies, terrorism, reforms of UNSC, the various conflicts, and the all-encompassing message from New Delhi was that it's time that the world should look in a way that should also include the view of the global south, and countries like present in the BRICS, the countries not only who are member of the BRICS but also the invited member countries.
Right, Siddhant, we're leaving it there for the moment, but of course we're coming back to you as and when we have further updates coming in from Kazan. Thanks very much. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.